Hi. So we made it through the Sea of Reeds. Just by that much. And the Egyptians are drowned behind us. Hooray! We were free. We looked over there, desert. We looked over there, desert. Behind us, Sea of Reeds. In front of us, desert. We were lost with little food, little water. And we set out. And we traveled for some time. And the people were getting very scared. They didn't have any water. They didn't have any food. They went over a sand dune. Nothing. Another one. Nothing. Nothing. Then finally, in the distance, they saw a lake. And they ran to the lake. All of them. Moshe, Aaron, Miriam, everyone. They ran to the lake and they stuck their heads into the water and drank up. It was bitter. It was bitter, bitter water, and they couldn't drink it. And they complained to Moshe because they were scared and they thought they were going to die and their children were going to die. And there they camped at the side of the lake, Lake Maror. And that night Hashem, God, came to Moshe in his tent and said, Moshe, go and take the leaves next to the lake and stick them in the water, and it will make the water fresh. And then send the people out during the day to scrape the bottom of the plants, the underside of the plants, to get food. Have them do that for 5 days, just enough for that one day that they can eat. No more, no less. Each one taking in Omer, just enough for them to sustain themselves for that day. But on the 6th day, take a double portion. Not one portion, but 2 portions. For on the following day will be the Shabbat. And do not go out and gather up the food on that day. It is a day to cease that work. And Moshe woke up the next day and sent out his people. First, they got the leaves and they purified the water and they drank, and it felt so wonderful, so refreshing, so life-giving. And then Moshe told them exactly what to do, to go out and scrape the bottom of the plants to get the wafer-like substance to eat. Just enough, and Omer, just enough for them to eat that day, to sustain themselves for that day, and no further. Well, there were people, for whatever reason, that were scared, and they didn't think there would be anything the next day, and they took more than they needed for that day. And the extra stuff went bad, and they could not eat it. There were people who couldn't gather enough, or they thought so, but what they did, what they gathered, actually was enough for them to eat that day and sustain them. The Omer was the exact unit, the exact amount for them to live on. No more, no less. And on the 6th day, they gathered up twice as much, a double portion. So they would have enough for that 6th day and Shabbat. And you know what? There were people that went out on the 7th day on Shabbat, and they tried to gather up stuff, but before they got it back to their tents, it all went bad. And that's how we continue to live in the wilderness. Taking an Omer, that amount, that is the correct amount for us to live on. No more, no less. And by taking an Omer amount, we can each sustain ourselves and live and be healthy, and there be enough to go around for everyone. And so we set out from Lake Maror and started to go further through the desert, the wilderness, sometimes lost, sometimes found, but heading to where we really didn't know. We would have an appointment with God at a mountain.